Today we're going to dive into the AEM Failsafe Wideband, look at the features, I'll go over the pros, the cons, stick around. Hey everybody, welcome back to the garage, and as always I want to start off by thanking all the new subscribers out there. We're about to hit 30,000, so give you guys yourselves a pat on the back because without you this show would not be possible. This is going to be a quick video. We are touching on the AEM Wideband Failsafe gauge. In particular, we're looking at the 30-49000. I'll put a link down into the description. They have multiple variations of this, and the more expensive ones are about 500 bucks a pop, have flex fuel integrated into them. I have no clue why you would care to see flex fuel on a gauge. It's not like you're driving down the road changing it, and if you're tuning in Lambda, it doesn't matter. So, yeah. That being out of the way, though, there are some cool things I like about this. For one, the gauge itself has the sweep LEDs and an LCD display on it, and you can choose what shows up on there. This actually has a built-in boost sensor. Kind of wish it had the external, but the built-in ones, yeah, it works. And the nice thing about it is, and we'll touch on it whenever we go in there, we can set our failsafe limits not only on AFR or EQ, but also versus boost. So we make sure that whenever we're running out of boost and we're commanding one lambda, something like that, we're not actually cutting timing. Now, I am tying, this device itself does not cut timing. I've got it tied back to the Lingenfelter LNC 2014, which is the two-step. It has a trigger input for timing cut. So whenever this gauge goes into alarm because we hit a lean spot underneath boost, it will trigger that, and that will automatically pull 15 degrees worth of timing. They make the model for the earlier LSs. I've got the LT generation hooked up, and this is just kind of a safety. It was time to add some additional safety under boost because we're making a lot of power on this setup, and if we can prevent catastrophic damage, why not spend the extra money? Now, here's a couple downsides on this particular thing. One of them, the internal pressure sensor. I would rather it have an external and a wiring harness that you go into the bay with the standard setup. Don't like that factor. The other one, and I don't quite understand this, is it uses the Bosch 4.2 sensor instead of the 4.9. If anybody knows why AEM hasn't updated these to use the 4.9 yet, hit up the comments down below and let me know. Those are the two big things that stick out to me as issues. The things I do like about it, though, as I said, the gauges itself, or the gauge itself, has both the LEDs and the display on there. You can configure those to whatever you want based off of pressure or AFR or lambda. In fact, since I already have a boost gauge, I'm using it just to show me lambda in number and lambda in sweep. But you could have boost in the number, boost in the sweep, AFR in the number. You know, you could do all combinations. In fact, you could have lambda in the sweep and boost in the number, or lambda in the sweep, AFR in the number. You get the idea. The combinations are pretty cool, and it comes with like 6 different faceplates, so you can get one that really matches up for what you're looking for. The software is the same failsafe software pretty much across the board on all these. Really easy to set up, really easy to use. I like it. And in fact, whenever you plug in on this one, it'll say, hey, USB on the display itself to let you know that the USB is hooked up. And then we will take a look real quick at how to set these things up. But other than that, it's straightforward, just like everything else. You've got a few more extra wires than normal on this because you can analog out not only your AFR and EQ, but you can also AFR out the boost pressure into a data logger. Now, that is another downside. There's no serial output on this, so you do have to have the Pro feature set to bring the analog from the gauge itself. A little disappointed in that. But given all the features on this unit, you got to give up some features somewhere, and I guess the serial output was going to be the one. So let's pop our heads in the truck. We'll take a look at the gauge real quick, and then we'll dive into the software. Okay, here's the gauge itself. As you can see, whenever you're hooked up and the vehicle's off, you can still program this gauge. I don't know that you can on the failsafe one for the methanol injection that I run. Honestly, I've never tried it, but this one literally tells you USB, and that is a nice display on there. Turn the car on. It'll go through its normal startup procedure here. And boom, there it is. It's reading in 0.98. This has a dimmer circuit on here, so it does not have the automatic dimming option that you have like on the boost gauge down here. I've got a dimmer circuit on this one. I just need to tie the dimmer signal from this down to there. I'm not worried about that right now because I need to get to tuning, but you can see I have got the Lambda faceplate on here and all the faceplates basically don't have any units on the internal. You just have to know what those are, and then it'll tell you at the bottom what the different faceplates are. So here we are, we have the Lambda reading 99, showing us, you know, 0.969798, who knows. There's not a lot of delineation, but one would be right to the next light over. And it works pretty good. And I like the numbers. The way the numbers look on this look a hell of a lot better than the numbers on the boost gauge and the standard wideband gauge. In fact, I would love this boost gauge a lot more if it had this kind of display on it. But I can understand because this thing is about a $200 boost gauge and this is a $350 wideband. Just a quick note, in the scanner, use the transform, the standard 3003X transform that you use for about all AEM widebands, even though the part number is not listed. This is the correct transform for both AFR or EQ, and make sure that you are grounding the brown wire, which is the analog negative. If you don't ground that one, you can tie it to the ground with a gauge. It has to be grounded though, or else you'll get analog drift. But I've got the software opened up here. Soon as you open the software up, it connects right up, and you get a nice table here. Let's go over to the gauge configuration first though, and here's where you can change your center display, your LEDs on here, and as you change the LEDs, you can also adjust where your different colors come into play on it, but I have mine set up for Lambda right now for the sweep. And so you can actually, if you didn't want red to ever show up, things like that, you can customize all that. Really cool stuff, really like that. You can adjust your flash speed of your alarm. Whenever you go into the alarm, the numbers themselves on the LCD or display will flash, or LED display, whatever they want to call it, LCD I think. And then on your dimmer input, you can put whether it is a 12-volt signal or a ground signal to go into bright or dim. Nice thing about it is, if you want to put this thing into dim all the way, you can just put this to ground and then hook the dimmer signal to a ground, and it'll always be dimmed. Now, you can really get off of the reservation as far as going into the depths of all the things that you can set up on here, as far as you can do auto set limits, because this thing will data log. The gauge itself holds like 30 minutes of data in it, so you can go out and do things and download a log. In fact, we'll see if I have any data in the log that we can look at here, and you can see where it would have put our, there we go. So here we are. This is showing us our data. This is where my AFR moved around just in the process of getting started up. And we don't need to save that, but we can use that. You can do auto set limits. I'm not going to do that in this situation because it'll build out the bottom and top limits. I'm not worried about the rich side doing a timing cut, only the top side, which is lean. And then you can adjust these up and down to stay out of it. You can see whenever we went lean up here, this is beforehand when I had some skewing on the data on there. So that wouldn't actually be, the last time we ran it was right around in this area. Whenever I was idling, we were, you know, between -4 and 0, and we were hunting between, you know, 0.7 and 1. But as I said, I've got this set up. Down here is your pressure. You can change your pressure, inch PSI to bar, vacuum, all that stuff. Same ordeal on the AFR scale. You can switch between AFR and Lambda. And so at 0 to 4, I start ramping in. And at 4, I say by 4 PSI, I want to be richer than 1 Lambda. And then by 8 and beyond, I want to be under 0.9 Lambda. So if we go leaner than 0.9, and we're targeting about 0.85 on this, so half a Lambda, if we go leaner than 0.9, the output will energize. It is a ground output, so I had to tie it to a relay to provide a positive or 12-volt output to the Lingenfelter box. Straightforward stuff. But at that point in time, it will have a half a second delay. Make sure that you're lean for at least half a second, and then it will go into alarm, trigger that, and then the Lingenfelter two-step will pull 15 degrees of timing out. You can change, as I said, you can change whether or not it's triggered on or off based on how you have your relay set up, and then you can also do an alarm reset after a certain amount of time, and then you can also disable auto reset, in which case you would have to turn the vehicle off and then turn it back on to reset. So pretty straightforward. You can also bring in an RPM signal. I'm not sure why you would necessarily want to bring in an RPM signal for this, because it doesn't factor into the tables anywhere. Other than it is data logging 30 minutes of data, and so it would data log 30 minutes of RPM along with AFR and boost pressure. So they do include that option. Little of a weird option, not sure why it's in there. Don't need it. Just need your wideband that you've hooked up, you know, to the gauge itself, the 4.2 sensor, and the pressure sensor that's built into the gauge to make sure you can build out a table like this. Okay, so that's pretty much the overview of the AEM Failsafe. I'm anxious to see how it performs when we're out actually tuning. I don't really have any lean spots on my map. In fact, my map's really rich still on the VE table, but it is an extra level of protection that I'm glad to have. I needed to replace my 300300 died a few weeks ago. I replaced it with an older unit that I had on the shelf that was just giving me fits. And so I was planning on replacing it. I almost went back in and got another 300300 because I love that gauge. It is, for the price, the best wideband out there in my opinion. And literally I'd ran mine for 4 years without any issues whatsoever. But I had been kicking around the idea of finally stepping up to the Failsafe, so I did. I'm happy with the features. As said, I'm disappointed that it's a 4.2 sensor, disappointed that it doesn't have serial output, but other than that, everything else is looking good to go on it. So I'll update you guys as we go through whether or not I like it, but right now I'm pretty happy. I love the display on it though. I'll give them props for that. That is a cool portion of it. So I gotta get back to tuning. I just wanted to do a quick video to give you guys a heads up on what we were doing as far as that goes. If you have any questions, hit up the comments down below. Check out the descriptions for links to these devices. And you know the drill. Thanks for stopping by the garage. ABT, always be tuning.